Hello, thank you for joining us. My name is Maureen, and on behalf of the Compassion Connectors Australia, I would like to welcome you all to our Celebrate Compassion event. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands on which we meet today and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. We joined the Global Compassion Coalition and the Charter for Compassion and the Compassion Council of Australia to supercharge our national and global movement for a more compassionate world. So during this presentation, we'll celebrate compassion and support the GCC's Festival of Compassion theme of Come Home, along with the Charter for Compassion's theme of Compassion in Action as we celebrate our National Day for compassion here in Australia. So in a moment, our Compassion Connectors will introduce themselves and tell you a little bit more about themselves. But first, I just want to mention today, the GCC's theme, Come Home, is a call for compassion across the dimensions of being. So it's the head, understanding compassion, the heart, practicing compassion, and the hands, living compassion. So I look forward to our conversations. So it is indeed an honour to welcome our wonderful connectors to our discussions today. So thank you for everything you do, and thank you for joining us today. So let's start welcoming you all. Hi, thank you.
Hi, I'm Lisa Bean. I live in Meanjin, Brisbane, which is Turrbal and Yagara country up in Queensland. I do compassion in action in a few different ways. So I volunteer for an organisation called Full Voices that has a mission of supporting vulnerable people with a focus on girls and women. And I am part of a singing group called the Brisbane Threshold Singers, who sing to people who are at difficult stages or thresholds in their lives, including the final threshold into death. And I'm part of this group, so that's another way of learning about compassion and finding other people and other ways to be a compassionate connector.
Oh, good on you. Thanks so much for everything you do. Helen, would you like to introduce yourself? Thank you.
Sure. So I'm Helen, and I think I've got I've certainly developed an understanding of the theory and practice of a compassionate mind and compassion in helping people in therapy with compassion-focused therapy. And in my retirement now, I'm involved in an organisation called Psychology for a Safe Climate, where we're supporting people that are having, maybe having impacts or concerns about climate change and the poly crisis, but certainly finding a role there to sort of promote compassion, and definitely see compassion towards nature as being a priority in what I'm doing, living and breathing. So, yeah, thanks.
Right, yeah, thanks very much, Helen. Alison, how about you? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Alison. I'm over in Western Australia, so I'm probably a long way from most of the people that are on this Zoom call. I probably do I hand out a lot of things to different people when I'm going to different expos, so I really try and get those compassion cups out there with a little exercise in it. But I mainly, and I do my own, professional work as a counsellor, but I've been working in the business community over here for small business, getting people to look at what language they're using to connect with other people and develop a much more connected, compassionate language, so they're connecting with themselves and the people around them in a much more deeper and more meaningful way. So that's how I've been doing it recently.
Right, thank you. Jay, would you like to introduce yourself? Thank you.
Uh, so I'm based in Sydney. I've been I'm a mentor in mentoring for men organization, so I'm just trying to sort of work on that side to sort of spread compassion there. Uh, I'm also associated with uh, the organization called Effective Altruism, which is effectively based on compassion and spreading altruism. And what's the most effective way? So I'm associated with that. Plus, I tend to send information about compassion, both in theory and in action and examples to a lot of about 100 or more people in my group. So I tend to every now and then I send them articles and information to them. So that's how I've been doing so far. And I have created a WhatsApp group called Compassion, but it hasn't been very active. But I have tried to do that as well, so that people share, ongoing basis, how they see compassion in action.
Right, thank you, Jay. Terry, thank you.
Hello, my name's Terry Ailing, and I live currently on the Redcliffe Peninsula, which is the home of the Ningi Ningi people, who are part of the Turrbal Nation. I am the lead currently of the Charter for Compassion here in Australia, and also a connector through the Global Compassion Coalition. I guess my background has been particularly in spiritual care or compassionate care at the end of life, and in palliative care. And I've also worked with interfaith dialogue, because often sort of polarizing faith traditions can be an obstacle to compassion. I am the facilitator of Compassionate Gold Coast, where I try and share stories of what has been happening, many compassionate actions taking place across the Gold Coast. And in my kind of personal life, I love to walk, and I'm a part of a man walk group, which is an opportunity for men to get together and to walk and talk and support each other. So a very step-by-step and basic but effective expression of compassion and action.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, Terry. Hello.
Just now I'm joining for the first time. I have been associated with Compassionate Integrity Program, and I did the course few years ago, and then I also did facilitator program, and for Compassionate Integrity I got a certificate on that. I basically have been like a semi-retired from my work from university 11 years ago, and I've been doing a lot of volunteering work, and mainly for last 7 years I have been a chairperson and president of Harris Park Community Center, where first thing on compassionate integrity, as a president, like my position is volunteer. We are getting funding from the government, Department of Community and Justice, and we have got a full-time manager, staff, and everything. The first thing I started as an initiative is we started with an open door policy. So people for any need, because like a domestic violence victims or a homeless people or the people who are not having food on the table, because we have the things people can pick up. And another initiative started at Harris Park Community Center as a domestic violence awareness is a Purple Bench initiative. So where it's a basically to make a difference, that how we can change the perceptions of the violence against women and children in particular, like our commitment with that. And Yeah, but in a day-to-day life, and I just put the certificate from Life University, which I received as a uh, compassionate integrity in the center. So they at least they are aware, because 700 people visit center every week, and people just come in and out. So sometimes people learn through the notice board, like whatever handout we put, how we can stand with each other in a need, and how we can relate the human beings not as a utilitarian value, but inherent values, like every human being has got the birthright to have basic things, so in that people can have awareness. Yeah, it's a very deep and sensitive emotional approach, and sometimes, like the best way is that if we can practice at like a community centers or community group, the other people learn or may get influence rather than the classroom or lecture series. That is what I believe, and I enjoy when other people ask the questions about how can we be compassionate in our daily life, because sometimes we are not even compassionate with our own self, like self-compassionate, then very hard to relate the compassion towards other people. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. Sorry, Mahesh, I missed where do you live?
Yeah, I have been in Sydney, and I think Terry Elling, he was with me. We did the course together a few years ago.
Okay.
From Terry Elling. Yeah.
So it's lovely that you know somebody. Well,
Thank
thank you for joining us. I'll just say a couple of little things about myself. So, as I mentioned, my name is Maureen, and I'm fortunate enough to live in beautiful Port Stephens in New South Wales. I'm recently, well, almost retired after working for 50 plus years with people in administration and managing community-based organisations and working in schools for the last 30 years. So it's been very rewarding for me with working with kids that have some behavioural and emotional disorders. So I'm very passionate about mental health and well-being. I guess that stems from maybe some challenges, lived experiences, and also because I really do want to see a more compassionate world. And I see so many people and so many families struggling, and I just really would love to do some things that might be helpful. I'm also a faculty member and an accredited workshop facilitator with the William Glasser International, and I volunteer, as you know, for the Global Compassion Coalition as the national lead for community connectors here in Australia. So I have facilitated some workshops in the community for many years, a workshop called Take Charge of Your Life, and I did the circles training with the Global Compassion Coalition. So I've decided to do the Take Charge of Your Life program, but have a compassionate focus to it. So that seems to be working out pretty well for me. Thank you very much for sharing some information about you. So I'm wondering if anyone would like to share a story from their own life about compassion and human connection.
Look, this particular story from a long time ago it came to the forefront of my mind because the Guardian newspaper runs a series called The Kindness of Strangers. And people are invited to, write in with a story of the kindness of strangers. So that has sort of led me to remember a story about when I was in my 20s and alone in a dark car park at night, and somebody came up behind me and demanded my purse. And in obviously a sort of state of shock initially, time slowed down and a whole kinds of other things. But then suddenly appeared a gang of youth who I would actually probably be fairly frightened of if I'd run into them in a dark car park at night. And they chased off the perpetrator of this attempted crime and took care of me and surrounded me and made sure that I was all right and that I got to a place of safety, and then disappeared into the night. And in terms of a story of human connection, when I was reflecting about this story, I wasn't able to thank them sufficiently, and I've thought about it nearly 40 years later, that I wonder whether or not that what they did, that kindness, that compassion that they showed towards me, may have had an influence on their life. On my life, it showed me that whilst people can do hurtful things to others, there are many people who can be kind to others as well. So I just thought that might slot into the topic that we're talking about now. Yeah.
Thank you. Lovely story. Thank you, Helen. Alison, who would love to tell a story?
I can tell a story. This is a recent one. It's a thing I've seen on Facebook, and there's a guy on there who he's adopted this deaf dog, and you see this little white deaf dog. I don't know whether you've seen this, and nobody wanted this dog because it was deaf, and he actually didn't want a dog. But I think his partner may have persisted with him. Anyway, they persisted and they got this deaf dog. And then this little deaf dog, who's called Pancake, I think, kept looking out the window, and they realised that this dog needed a companion. So there's a number of acts of compassion there. So they drove 1,000 kilometres to pick up another deaf dog, to bring home to be a companion for this dog. They taught both the dogs sign language so they can understand, and you can see them actually using the sign language, which is just remarkable. And then he said, I didn't want a baby. And next minute you see that they've got a baby. So some partners probably persisted with him. But then the dog's lying down beside this baby, protecting the baby, being there in a really compassionate way. And you see this fellow who started off not wanting the dog, cradling this dog. And it is just so delightful. And they are just beautiful with these animals. They're beautiful with their baby. So they've got a beautiful, compassionate household. And the other thing that I think that I really like is that they are actually encouraging others, just with their story and their story of compassion, to rescue dogs rather than go and buy them from a shop or buy them from a breeder. So that there's a whole range of compassionate aspects going on in this family. And I just, every time I see it, I just feel it's delightful.
Lovely story. Okay.
My story too is a very recent story. In fact, from earlier today. Today's the 6th of August, which is the 80th anniversary of the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima. And so there are lots of global events. But this morning there was a global event from Hiroshima organised by the May Peace Prevail on Earth movement. And of course, compassion and peace are very closely related. And as part of that, there are a whole lot of interfaith prayers and messages from speakers and dance. But one of the very significant things was a flag ceremony where people from all 193 countries throughout the world, there was a procession of their flags, and in each presentation of each flag, there was the collective prayer, may peace prevail on earth. And I felt that, in the span of 8, and then they interviewed people afterwards who had, who were visiting and were there in Japan at that time. And every person they interviewed said, we don't want war. We don't want this to ever happen again. and we're friends, we're welcoming, we just the sense of global solidarity, both online and the people that were kind of present, as an indication that with all the, difficult things that are happening in the world, ordinary people generally want to respond to the suffering they see around them, and reach out in simple ways and say, we share a common humanity, and I wouldn't want you to hurt like I don't want to hurt.
Thank you, Terry. Lisa.
I'm trying to think. We something that I've noticed with the volunteer work that I do every Thursday. So it's outreach work. So we set up tables and chairs under a tree, and it's outside of a Centrelink office, and the Department of Housing is upstairs. And so a lot of people come by who are experiencing, systemic injustice, and we start off, our compassion starts off with a cuppa. So it might be a cup of tea, cup of coffee, cup of Milo. We've got that set up in our van. And I've just noticed, so it's been about 3 or 4 years that I've been going to that same location once a week. And so we have a bunch of regulars, so say 5 or 6 that come every week, and they might stay for an hour or 3 hours. And over that time, it's become its own community in a way. And so now we see all the time just these acts of compassion amongst these people who are local to that area who didn't know each other beforehand. So, for example, one of them who's a new Australian recently went back to his country of origin, Iran. And then when he came back, he was so pleased to greet one of the Aboriginal elders there, one of the uncles. And in fact, he had bought a number of rings, and he said to the uncle, "I'd like to give you a ring. Which one do you like?" And this uncle was so touched, and was calling him son, which is so lovely, because in the time that this man was waiting to become an Australian, the 15 years or so that he was in Australia, both his parents died back in Iran, and he wasn't able to go back for their funerals. And so I just love, just this, beautiful things that happen all the time, because we sit there every week without judgment, and we sit there, with kindness and compassion.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it has a ripple effect, doesn't it? Just keeps on going. Lovely. Yeah, lovely. Jay or Maresh, would you like to tell us a story about compassion and human connection?
Yes, I like couple of years ago when I started volunteering for one of the organization here called Settlement Services International, SSI. They help refugees and asylum seekers. So I was as a volunteer English teacher for the people from other countries like Afghanistan, Iraq, Sri Lanka, and other people. The first thing in the morning, the class for 2 to 3 hours, I noticed that people were not responding like they just looks like they don't want to learn English. It was how we can integrate them into reading the signboards on a train station, how to buy a ticket, and those type of English, basic English, how to change the money and all those things. So I was involved heavily in that program, and for a couple of years. But in that time, I was not very familiar with compassion approach. This is a few years ago, maybe more than 5 years ago. But then when I discussed with the SSI team, And they said that, Mahesh, they are all coming from trauma. Sometimes they may not have slept in the night because they might have got bad dreams. They may not have eaten the breakfast. So as a human connection, they suggested, why don't you start with like a tea, coffee, and biscuits? Like you take it with you, like the hot water and other things are there, but these things you can just buy and take there, and you start the session with this thing. Probably things will improve. And also they suggested that when you use any words to teach them, don't pose yourself as a like a academic type of English teacher. You are like a one of them, teaching them, because if they find a big gap, then they will think this is not possible, or I will never learn the English. Because and some of them were really very keen, but other people, but it is a class, it was not one-on-one, and as a teacher you have to make sure. So for me it was a very big lessons that when we are brought up, or when we are living in a comfort zone, or we are having a comfortable living, don't relate the people to whom we give service. It was a volunteer service, but even in volunteering also, the most important component I realized that it was not my level of English or how much I am trying hard to make them with spoken English or understanding English, but the main component was compassion. If I am not compassionate, they will not connect, because they are, yeah. So many places, and this I learned after few weeks. So actually, rather than teaching them English, I actually learned compassion myself.
Yep. Great. Thank you. Thank you,
I
Jack.
need to be very quick one. Yep. No, this is a very simple and quick and day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Once I went to shopping center. I was parking my car. When there are two rows, instead of back, I just went to the front row, and then I was just getting out and going to the shopping. But I didn't realize there was somebody who was, he must have signaled, but he was further away. So he became very upset and angry and started shouting. So I just came back. I took my car back and allowed him to park in that space. And then he started telling me, I'm sorry, I had my bad day and all that. But what I'm trying to say is that we need to show compassion in day to day. Giving our parking space to somebody, that itself is a big compassion. So we need to do in a daily life, day to day activities.
Yeah, we do. Thank you, Jay. So I think we did have our next question was, what is true? What does it mean to be human? And why is compassion, connection, and community so important to us? But I think I just have a quick definition here, and then we might go on to our next question, which is what have we lost and how do we return to what is true? So I think we do really know what it does mean to be human and why compassion and connection is so important to us. But my definition, is being human is fundamentally about social connection, compassion, and community. These elements are crucial for individuals' well-being and the flourishing of society. So compassion and empathy and a sense of belonging are not just desirable traits, they are fundamental to our nature and essential for a healthy and thriving existence. So that's what we believe to be true. That's what it means to be human, and why compassion and connection and communities are so important to us. So I just asked the next question, which is, what do you think we've lost in our societies now? Why do we need more compassion?
I believe that the way things are changing, and like we don't have to mention about all the wars happening in the world, but I'm just saying that why we need to have more compassion. I'll just take example of Jai, who just mentioned about the car car parking space.
Mm.
I believe that the generation which I am, like I'm being living, and my children's generations who are now like a fully adult, I think the work pressure is too much, the competition is too much, uncertainty is too much. So I think rather than talking about wars and other things, because that is applicable to a certain percentage of the world's population, unfortunately, but the large portion of the population are the people who are living normally in a democratic country or developed or underdeveloped country, where things are becoming increasingly stressful, competitive, and like a non-tolerant. Like nobody wants to tolerate anything. Like if somebody is in bad mood, then they say it's their problem. So I'm just saying that it's a compassion is not more required. The compassion is the only thing required now to have certain type of changes in a normal human being, because the most civilized societies have least compassion, because everybody is thinking that what is my score out of 10? Did I get 7 or 8? They don't care about other people's score where they have not even made 1 or 2. So the society is very competitive. So
Yeah,
it's a very
absolutely.
generic thing, but I'm just saying rather than talking about wars and invasion and bombs and missiles and drones, that is one aspect. Every day, like our children, young children go to the work, whether it's a lawyer or a nurse or a doctor or like everybody has got a bad day.
Yeah.
Everybody. Yeah,
Yeah.
because they are overworked and underpaid or
Okay.
rewarded. So I think the compassion is very much required
Absolutely.
everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Maresh. Anyone else have a view on what they believe we've lost?
Yeah, just a quick one.
Yeah.
Just highlighting what Mahesh said, we all naturally learn about competition and skill and all that setting. Where in schools and that we learn about compassion, honesty, integrity, and things like that. We
No.
really need that. See, in older times, I think we were used to learn through different, we were living in a family and talking to elders, but now there is nobody how can you expect children to become compassionate unless they don't know what is compassion and things like that.
Absolutely. Yep, I agree. Terry.
Well, I think we've lost that sense of our interconnectedness.
Mm.
And, I think if I understand what Mahesh was saying earlier, that we've become very self-centered and focused on our own immediate needs rather than the needs of others. And at the heart of all great traditions is this notion, of do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or don't do anything that you wouldn't want done to you. And until we have reclaim that sense of a common humanity and beyond that an interconnectedness with the whole world, we won't see that what we do or don't do to others is a treatment of ourselves.
Yeah. Helen, okay. Do you got any views on what we've lost?
I feel like, just to sort of like reiterate, I think that rather what we have developed is a sense of the individual being more important than the group, and all of the implications of that. So a lot of weight has been put on individuals having, high self-esteem without their connection with being able to do good commerce with the world.
Yep. Alison, have a view?
I think we've lost have a loss of our voice, a collective voice. I don't know how many petitions I signed yesterday about different parts of nature. We've had a loss of empathy too for each other. And what's being modelled in the world today is pretty ordinary. The racism that's being modelled in the US, the total disregard for people. And I think what we've lost is that voice across a whole range of things. But we've been taken over by private enterprise and big business, which I think is dreadful.
Yeah. And I think although we have every option, or available to us to be connected, I think social media, I just don't think we connect very well these days. Doesn't seem to be any heart-to-heart connection. A lot of times it's just over the internet, and I worry about that type of although like there's plenty of opportunities, self-help opportunities on the internet, but I just not sure that it's working for us. Like we see record numbers of people, young people, struggling with mental health issues. So, and yet there's plenty of help out there. So why is it still continuing? So I think it's because we are not able to connect effectively in a heart-to-heart way.
Over in New South Wales, you had that huge rally the other day to support the Palestinians.
Mm.
I think is absolutely, something like 300,000 people there or reported to be there, which is marvellous. But, why do we have to put our energy at that level to protest? Why can't we, all that energy could have been put in such a different way to, assist those people. But we're protesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Lisa, yeah.
I feel like we've lost our values, that we to think of as valuable and values. Now it's all instead a focus on what our dollar value is. And so that's the all-pervading message and conditioning for everybody. It comes from our governments, it comes from our media. So it's really difficult to stand on the other side. It's it's not difficult for me, but it's often difficult because it is against the status quo. And so, that's why I really want to, so interested in leaning into compassion, because it is the antidote. Love is the antidote to all of that, which is kind of this fear-driven, stuff in the world.
Yeah. Yes. I agree. So does anyone else have any more comments about that, what we've lost? We'll move on to our next question.
Can I just make a small comment?
Yes.
I think our society and community is to be blamed to an extent, because what society and community values is dollar. What they values is position. Have you seen any prize given to the most compassionate person or things like that? So the whole society structure is valuing those people. And so the society is to be blamed for that as well.
Yeah. Yes. So as societies and as members of our communities, what do you believe that we should be doing, or what are we doing to bring more compassion to the world? Would you like to share anything else that you're doing?
Yeah, I just want to share on that thing that certain things can be only possible whatever is in the important role, or like a powered role or empowering role. So those leaders and change makers within the society or community, they should recognize compassionate person, whoever is doing whatever level of work. There are lots of silent people, like a silent workers. They are just interested to have compassionate practices in their day-to-day life, but who can highlight them? So the community, even though they are wealthy people, they are powerful people, even though they are egoistic people, they are position people, but they are the people who are in authority. The authority people, wherever they are, whichever community, whichever region, they can recognize actual compassionate people, compassionate contributor, compassionate ambassadors or promoter. And that is how, just like an infection, when the winter is there, then the flu infection is coming. This compassion should be infectious through these channels. And so even though these are powerful people, ego people, position holder people, wealthy people, we have to approach them and we have to make them convinced that through you something can happen. So it is a top down and bottom up. So compassion has to, because the passion is for individual interest, compassion is for interest of others. As so many people said, we are now individualistic. We are interested only in a. That's why we are saying he is so passionate. Have you heard, like, she is so passionate? You will hear 1,000 times in a day for any person, any conversation. Have you heard he or she is so compassionate? Mm-hmm. So passion and compassionate are the same thing, but in an opposite direction. One is for individual interest, another is other people's interest. So this infectious movement, how to do that, we all can collectively contribute to idea, and we can start with the trial model, and we should be happy if that infection goes to the people. Ours is a good infection. Infection
I think compassion is very contagious. So
contagious.
Very good. So Terry, can you just share what you've been doing, in your community?
Well, I was just kind of reflecting on that and what Alison said earlier about losing. We've lost our voice, and there are very powerful forces. People that speak loudly, and forces in the media and social media that sort of broadcast those voices to quieten the voices of 100,000 people, walking across the Harbour Bridge or whatever it may be. But I think for me, the challenge is always to bring it back to my life and my relationships and my family and my community. So I had a situation recently in the Man Walk group that I'm a part of. And I posted something online that really triggered somebody else in the group. And I'd never felt particularly close to this person. But actually the falling out that we had actually became an opportunity for me to connect with this person. And although we see the world very differently, we've reconnected in terms of a sense of respect and, appreciation of difference and wanting to kind of understand one another. So I think the posture of compassion is always a kind of creating a safe space, whether that's sort of reaching out, with a cup of coffee or, a professional service, or whether it's, pulling back in terms of letting somebody else into your car park space. The posture of compassion is creating that space that is safe enough to connect with other people. That's a practice that I want to develop in every aspect of my life. And as I do that, it sort of enriches the quality of the other more intentional, compassionate actions that I'm taking.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Terry. So I think we might move on to, our final discussion about what will we build together and how will we move forward from here? What can we do as a group? So we know already that we're joining with other organisations like the Charter for Compassion and the Compassion Council of Australia. But is there anything more, any ideas that people might have? How do you see us moving forward, to spread more compassion?
I I'm just like everybody must be having the similar idea, or probably other people might have contributed earlier. But I was just thinking we can make use of social media. Like I know that there are lots of resources on YouTube or the on the website. But if we can have like a short video clip of a inspiration on a like a to be compassionate from like a Compassionate Council of Australia or Compassion Australia, whatever organization or charter of compassion, whatever organization we are associated, and those clips we can make it available to the community group leader. Then they can circulate within their community group organization. I'm sure there are more than 100,000 community groups, including Indian group, Filipino group, Sri Lankan group, Italian group, any social community group, and a small message of 2 minutes video, which we can make. It's not a lecture, as you said, contagious. So the 2 minutes clip should be attractive, because if they are attracted, then they will join our movement. This is just one idea. I'm sure it is already in the place, but it can go in a lower level at community group rather than individuals, because individuals are not interested on a day-to-day WhatsApp messages. But if you send it to a community group leader or community center manager or community center president, then they can circulate locally within their group.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if you're a member of the Global Compassion Coalition. Are you, Mahesh?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, well,
but
I know.
I was connected with Charter of Compassion, from where
Okay, yeah.
I did my compassionate integrity course and facilitator course
Yeah.
from Life University. Yeah.
The GCC they have, social media, Facebook accounts, so they send them out, quite regularly. So what I've been doing is just passing them on to all the local community groups, via social media in our area. So so I think that's a great medium that we can use, to spread the word. But
I will become member once I know how to become member. Like if I'm not.
Oh, okay. You would just log on to the GCC website, the Global Compassion website. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the first screen that comes up is become a member, so you can just sign up.
I will do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
I do think we can use the technology wisely, and it's interesting that this group of people, I don't think I've met any of you personally, and we're all in different parts of the country. So, I mean, the technology and this kind of platform does give us a vehicle to do that. But I've been inspired again today, and in some of my communications with Lisa, about the power of art and music. It connects people, across language barriers, and connects, there's a sort of a heart connection. The most beautiful, thing is singing or playing to somebody, who's in the process of dying, or, that sort of thing. So I really think the arts and the media are great avenues for the promotion of our common humanity, our interconnectedness, and the cry for compassion.
I believe you're right. Alison, would you like to say something about the art programs that you've been doing as well?
I think I'd probably use art and some sort of art therapy or expressive art therapy to really build that compassion towards self, because I find a lot of people are quite disconnected from themselves, and I think it's got to start with the person. So I probably work on the passion of their own compassion, and it can take all sorts of different forms to really start to build up an understanding of self, because the distance between understanding self and having choice is quite a bit at the moment. There's quite a gap there. People are very disconnected from themselves.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Alison. Helen, yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm sort of thinking and have been thinking a lot about the need for education about compassion. However, if you were to ask people, are you interested in learning about compassion, then that might have limited appeal, because there's a whole lot of perhaps misconceptions or different understandings, or things that people are uncomfortable with, sometimes with that term. So, and I suppose just to sort of like come around in a bit of a circle for me, this idea of the kindness of strangers storytelling, where people can experience a memory of somebody being kind to them or being kind to somebody else. Actually, it's the heart of it, right? Not the head. So it's engaging the heart and not just this sort of intellectual understanding about compassion. And I think that may be perhaps a way of getting to people who otherwise, may not engage.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, I love the idea of compassion in a cup. So I've been running these like morning tea, afternoon tea type events where we just call it compassion in a cup. And it's just where people come, they share stories from the heart, but we actually have a topic that we discuss each week. So we integrate compassion and subject or topics to do with mental health, and that seems to work. It's not like a workshop, so to speak, but it's lovely to have a format where you can introduce certain things, but in a very calm and relaxed way where people talk about who and what matters to them, which I think is a really lovely idea. So yeah, thank you. Now, anyone else have anything that they might be doing? Jay, yes. Yeah.
To raise the profile of this organization in Australia, like recently I saw, I'm part of Mentoring Men. They came on that Sunrise or some show on Channel 7 with mentor and mentee. So
Yeah.
maybe something, if we have some connection, we can sort of try to approach them like on our annual day or some sort of thing to raise the profile, because once you are on sort of those channels, the profile of the organization and the whole movement actually rises significantly.
Great idea. Yeah. Okay, so we're just about out of time. I'm just wondering, would anyone else like to say anything else or share any more information or any ideas about how we could, supercharge the momentum of compassion in the future? Lisa, do you have anything further to say about your group or
Well,
Yeah?
last week I attended an anniversary of an organisation called CHAR, which is Community Healing and Accountability. So it's a whole lot of organisations within one suburb that come together, and community members with the aim of ridding that suburb of violence altogether. So it's been going for a year. And so it was fabulous to have a celebration, because all of the other meetings are about how do we do this, what are we doing, how are we measuring it, what's happening. And so we had lots of people getting up with their stories of impact. So, for example, there were a few Taiwanese Australian women who had met by coming along to a women's group, and in their culture, they didn't even realize that the situations that they've been through had been domestic violence, because it's not even a thing. So now that they've been empowered by coming to that community group and have learnt about that, they are now starting their own group for other Taiwanese Australians and showing compassion to these other women who have experienced DV or are experiencing DV, and being able to reach out to them. So that's exactly what it is now. It's the community is happening, the healing is happening in community rather than being organisationally based. So it's empowering those natural helpers within the community to be able to ripple out their compassion.
Oh, that's wonderful.
There's lots of good things happening. Thank you,
Okay.
Maureen, for facilitating us and challenging us as usual.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you for sharing your time and your experience and your expertise and your
Thank you.
inspiration and your
Yeah.
heart today. So thank you. So
Thank you.
Buddy.
Thank you.
thank you,
Thanks,
Maria.
everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks, Maureen.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.